It is glass, but it isn't wine. It isn't a plate, but it is a bottle. It's a rabbit, but it's not a box. Is this driving you crazy yet? Welcome to Book Therapy. I'm your host, Kim Patton. There's no way to count how many books are floating around in this world. Some are decent, some are truly terrible, and some are great. Today we're going to take a deep dive into one great book. Together we will discover gems of truth and encouragement to help you face your current season of life. I'm ready, you're ready, let's get this party started. Hello friends, thank you so much for joining me here today. Before we dive into the book, I want to talk to you about my Substack newsletter. If you've never heard of Substack, it's sort of like a website / email newsletter / blog / whatever people want it to be. I am using it to grow a book therapy community. So it is called Book Therapy Extra Sessions. What you get when you sign up is a book recommendation Google form that you can access at any time to get a book recommendation from me. That's right, free personalized book recommendations. You're welcome. You also get a checklist from season 1 that shows all of the books we talked about so that you can keep track of which ones you have read, which ones you want to read, and you can check them off your list. In this Book Therapy Extra Sessions community, there's going to be tons of perks and behind the scenes, voice memos, videos, extras. And what I'm really excited about is that this is the place where I will grow a book club. The book club is not ready yet, but I would like to use this Substack community to one day have a book therapy book club. Ideally, I'll get to mail you the books so that you get extra fun stuff in the mail. But at this point in time, I really don't know what the book club is going to look like. So as of right now, it's a book therapy extra sessions community. This subscription is super affordable, so I'd love for everyone to get in early so that when it does grow into a book club, we already know each other and have bonded over books. As always, thank you so much for your support. You guys are so much fun, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback from you recently. So I really appreciate your comments, your suggestions, and everything you guys do to make book therapy what it is. Let's dive into the book. Today we are talking about a super special book written by one of my favorite authors of all time. It is called This is the Story of a Happy Marriage by Patchett. She's releasing her 9th novel this month, and I've read all 8 of her novels. Only one of them I didn't finish, and then she's written a few nonfiction works. I will read Patchett forever, and I will recommend her, but I won't recommend her to everyone. She writes fiction mostly, but some of her novels are not plot-based at all, and so I wouldn't recommend some of her novels to people who really need a fast-paced book or a story-driven book. Honestly, I can't even describe what kind of an author she is. You just have to try her. I started with State of Wonder, and then shortly after that, I read Patron Saint of Liars. I liked both of those. And then when I read This is a Story of a Happy Marriage, I kind of fell in love with her writing and with her style. It seemed to fit with what I liked to do, narrative nonfiction. She told a story with her real life, and she kept it compelling, and I admired that. And so for years, I have been following her work, reading all of those stories that she's been putting out, some more popular than others. And now I have some exciting news to share with you. I wrote her a letter about a month and a half ago. I had finished reading This is the Story of a Happy Marriage for the second time. I read this back in like 2016, 17, and I listened to it on audio. But this time around, I listened to it on audio again, but then I bought it from Thrift Books for like $5. And so when it was mailed to my house and I got to hold it in my hands, I was so excited. So I finished the book on audio and the paper copy. And then I said, you know what? She lives in Nashville. I'm just going to write her a letter and just connect with her because she means that much to me. You guys, she sent me a postcard back. I have a postcard from Patchett. She owns Parnassus Books in Nashville, And on the front of the postcard is a picture of a dog on a stack of books, which is very cute. And then on the back, she says, "Dear Kim." And she writes me a little note, and she signed it. And I I think I jumped up and down when I got this. I don't remember. But I definitely grabbed my daughter and was like, look, 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 this is Mommy's favorite author. And I think she was more interested in the dog on the front of the postcard. But I do like teaching my daughter about authors. When we read a book, we look on the author page and I say, this is the author, this is her name, this is what she likes to do. I love that there's been a few times where Eden moves to, she flips to the back of the book and she says, "Is that the author?" She doesn't know who Ann Patchett is. And honestly, a lot of people probably don't either. But to me, she's a gentle, humble, steady writer that has been providing beautiful stories for us for years. And I look up to her so much, and I hope one day to be the kind of writer that she has been to me. So, enough fangirling. This book is nonfiction. It's a collection of essays that she has had published throughout the years. I remember listening to a podcast one time where she talked about how what the intentions were behind putting these essays together, because essays are in and of themselves independent stories. And so she, as the author, wanted to create some sort of narrative arc with these essays. I didn't really pay attention to that. I'm good with just reading essays for what they are, because each one kind of covers something different topics, different place and time. She talks about her childhood. She talks about her first marriage. She talks about her dogs. I mean, she kind of covers everything. So it's not singularly focused, but they are all personal stories, and they all were published in various places and had, various popularity. So when people think of Ann Patchett, they mostly think of her novels. But for me, this is my favorite book by her. So we're going to talk about 3 stories in the book that really stuck out to me. The first one is called The Paris Match, and this is a super short essay. It was published in the New York Times in 2006, and it just tells a simple story about a boyfriend and girlfriend fighting twice. It tells the story of her fighting with a boyfriend from her past and then her current boyfriend. And what are they fighting about? They're fighting about a game. So she says on page 71, she's out to dinner in Paris with her boyfriend, Carl. She says about her previous boyfriend, "The worst fight we ever had wasn't exactly a fight," I said. "We were playing a word game. When he told me about it, I said I wanted to play, but then I couldn't figure out the answer and he wouldn't stop. He just kept playing it, and I don't know." She's telling Carl about this situation with her ex-boyfriend, and he wants to, of course, play the game. And she knows that this is dangerous, but she moves forward because he insists. So she describes the game. "I say a word, and then I tell you if the word is or isn't it. For example," I picked up my wine glass. "It is glass, but it isn't wine. It isn't a plate, but it is a bottle. It's a rabbit, but it's not a box." Is this driving you crazy yet? So this is the game. She's just saying things that it is or isn't. And so her boyfriend, Carl, obviously gets frustrated because that's what happened to her when her boyfriend played the game with her several years before. They fought over dinner in this beautiful Paris restaurant, and the dinner was incredible, but neither of them really remembered it because it was just this tense conversation over this stupid game that ruined it. So I get to the end of this essay, and I thought, wait a minute, what is this game? I didn't really understand it. So I looked back at the chapter, and I'm like, how in the world do you play it? And what does she mean by it's a tree, but it isn't a leaf? So I did what I do usually when I can't figure something out. I looked it up on the internet, and I found an article where Ann Patchett gave me a hint. And I took that hint, and I got a piece of paper and pen, and I wrote the words out, and I figured it out. And then, of course, to infuriate my husband, I asked him about it over dinner. And I was like, listen, I want to play this game with you, so stick with me. So I started it with him at home, and then he didn't figure it out. But I didn't give him the hint. And then when we were driving in the car later, I did give him a hint. And it took him a little bit, but he figured it out. And it was really fun. I don't know. You guys are smart. Maybe you can figure it out. I'm curious to see if you can figure out this little game riddle thing that Ann Patchett proposes to us. So you let me know. Impress me, people. Come on. The second essay is not short. It is over 35 pages, and rightly so. It's worth it to read every single word. This is called The Wall, and it's about the time where she tried out for the Los Angeles Police Department. Her father worked for the LAPD for 32 years, and he retired in 1990 at the level of Captain 3. Because Anne had such respect for her father, she wanted to throw herself into his world. She did not want to become a police officer. There was no desire in her heart to actually fulfill the job. But what she did want to do was see the world through her dad's eyes. I really respect that, and I enjoyed this chapter because it gives you the nitty-gritty of what it's like to try out for a police department. And I'm probably never going to do that, so I liked going on the adventure with her. She says on page 118, studying, which once meant the memorization of battle dates in the order of presidents, now means clearing a 6-foot wall. The big sticking point for getting into the police academy, especially for women, is the wall, and so I begin to hunt up practice walls around Cambridge, a low one to start. I pick the wall outside the Cambridge Public Library. It is a sunny weekend, and from across the street, I wait for the traffic to clear and then take a flying run at it. It's not a natural thing jumping over a wall, and more often than not, I smack straight into it. My hands bleed, my legs and arms bruise. A small crowd of interested onlookers assembles and moans at my failures until finally I give up. When I read this book 7 years ago, this was my favorite part, listening to her talk about this wall. I mean, a 6-foot wall. I don't know if I could do that. And Ann Patchett isn't even terribly athletic. And she trains for it. Not only the wall, but she trains for the written exams. She studies. She gets up early. She does all of the physical tests required to pass. I don't really want to spoil anything, but the ending was really special because she gained this understanding on a whole new level of what her dad spent 32 years doing. And also, I think she gained a little respect for herself that she did something new, totally out of her comfort zone. And she was impressed with the way it turned out for her. Lastly, we have The Bookstore Strikes Back. In the publishing world, it's been kind of rumored for several years that with the invention of ebooks and Kindle and all of that people will stop buying paper books. Ann Patchett has, of course, heard all about that. You know, she's in the publishing industry. She knows what people are saying. However, when the opportunity came along in 2012 for her to start a bookstore, she knew it was the exact right thing to do. We've all heard of bookstores closing down and the difficulty of bookstores to remain open has spread this rumor that, you know, reading is dying, which is a load of crap. Of course, reading is not dying. I don't know how many people I've talked to who say, I love to hold a book in my hands, including myself. I will read an ebook. I will listen to an audiobook, but my preferred mode of reading is with a book in my hand. So she started an independent bookstore in Nashville. It's called Parnassus Books. And in this chapter, she talks about the whole process from start to finish. And what I really love is that it was a surprise to her. She didn't set out to start a bookstore. She didn't even barely know the people that she started the bookstore with. She talks about the hard work that goes behind raising up a bookstore from the ground up. The kind of work she's doing is important. She's bringing something to Nashville that it really needed. And she was shocked that on the day the bookstore opened, the publicity just blew up. It's like nobody believed that someone was going to open up a bookstore. And she did, and it's been extremely successful. It reminds me of You've Got Mail, The Shop Around the Corner. There's a genuine charm that comes with a bookstore. And watching Meg Ryan read the children's book to a rug full of children just has always made me so happy. I think that is a lost art. So to wrap things up, we talked about the game, the wall, and the bookstore. I want to end with a quote from the chapter on her relationship with her friend Lucy Greeley, who passed away at an early age. Lucy had jaw cancer and many reconstructive surgeries and addiction struggles, but the way that Ann Patchett talks about her is really unique. I don't think you hear a story of a friendship between two women the way that Ann Patchett portrays it. Mostly because Lucy Greeley is just a really unique and wonderful, special, creative, and brilliant poet, but also because Anne and Lucy were best friends for a long time, and Anne misses her. And so the way she talks about her is a little bit sad, but really cool. So she says on page 159, there were plenty of things Lucy left out of Autobiography of a Face. Mostly how relentless and long her illness was, how violently, boringly sick she would be for weeks and months at a time. She understood exactly how much the reader could stand without turning away. She didn't write the story of what she had to endure. She wrote the story she thought the reader could endure. This is the mark of a good writer. She's talking about Lucy right here, but also Anne. They know how to please the reader. They know what to cut out. A lot of these essays are long and some of them are short, but they are highly edited. You can tell that every sentence means something. In some ways, Anne is a simple and practical and somewhat straightforward writer, but I think that's what makes her writing relatable. So in the same way that Lucy Greeley in her Autobiography of a Face knows what to leave out, I think that Anne has that gift as well. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Book Therapy Podcast. Today we talked about This is the Story of a Happy Marriage by Ann Patchett. She does have a new novel coming out this month, so go to her website, annpatchett.com, and check it out. And once again, if you want to look into the Substack community that just launched, it's called Book Therapy Extra Sessions, and the link is in the show notes. And if you are just needing a new book to read and you're not quite sure where to start, join the community for just a few dollars a month, click on the Google form, and get book recommendations whenever your little heart desires. Alrighty, see you next time.